For millions of people living in our frenetic, stressful, materialistic world, life can sometimes feel a little empty.
I would say I'm definitely searching for something. You know, that hole-in-the-soul syndrome.
Everybody wants to understand whether their life has a meaning, and I would like to know whether my life has a meaning or it is totally meaningless.
Something's missing. I don't know what I don't know if it is religion, maybe it's something else, but I've tried everything else. It's not that.
Abdullah Trevathan, a respected Muslim teacher and university lecturer, believes he has the answer.
People are frantically looking for something in their lives, a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose. The problem is they don't know what they're looking for, and they don't know how to find it. I believe that what they're looking for is the spiritual. And that is accessible to people, whether they're religious or not. And really, that's what we're going to be engaging people in during the retreat over this month.
Abdullah has invited 3 men and 3 women to swap their busy lives in the UK for the quiet isolation of southern Spain, where they'll spend 4 weeks on an intensely personal spiritual search.
I think I'd find the whole idea of focusing on spirituality odd.
It'd just be sort of taking myself away completely from my world, from my family, from my friends, from my mobile phone.
Sorry, I need to take this. Hello?
The 6 volunteers will be staying here at a remote location in the hills of Andalusia, an Islamic retreat called Al-Qaria de Rosales.
We're absolutely not about converting people to Islam. What we are engaged in is helping people to find answers to questions that they may have, irrespective of religious beliefs or even a lack of them. I think that if people are willing to come to this with an open mind and to immerse themselves in what we're doing, I have no doubts that it will be a life-changing experience.
The retreat is situated on the historic frontier of Islamic and Christian civilizations. It welcomes visitors from any faith and caters to Muslims of all persuasions by promoting the values of what they call classical Islam, which emphasizes the spiritual roots of the religion. Though himself a Sufi, one of many branches of Islam, Abdullah is convinced that the values of classical Islam can be embraced by all.
Welcome. My name is Abdullah.
Hi.
Hello, nice to meet you. Nice to Walaikum Salam.
Hi.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Come on, let's go inside. Please.
As hosts, Abdullah and his wife Shanaz are keen to put their guests at ease.
We're not going to be doing any courses on bomb making or Molotov cocktails or anything like that.
No.
Let's get all the names right now as well. So, it's Aisha.
Yes.
Khadija. Simon. Okay.
Muddassar.
Okay.
Call me Han.
Is that what they call you?
But my real name's Azim.
Azim. And
I'm Pom.
Pom.
You're Pom. Yes.
Han and Pom. What wonderful names.
Only 3 of the new arrivals would call themselves Muslims. Though not a member of any organized religion, trained psychotherapist Pom Jenkins has studied to master's level in her search for meaning.
As long as I can remember, I think I've always had part of my brain thinking, what's the point in living unless you're searching for some kind of greater meaning and hopefully finding it? And because otherwise it's just completely pointless.
Cross that standing leg, use it like a seat.
I trained as a Reiki practitioner. I kind of looked into Buddhism. I've been to all sorts of Kabbalah lectures. I mean, it's more kind of what haven't I tried. I would like to get a greater sense of peace out of this. I hope, in a really greedy way, I have some kind of experience of the divine, basically. Because I really want it, and I feel like I've tried so hard, and that's probably the problem.
Rosales is an Islamic retreat, so males and females will be staying in separate accommodation.
Okay, we'll take you in here, yeah.
While Abdullah looks after the men, Shanaz shows the women to their rooms.
Okay, these are your living quarters. You've got a kind of a common room here.
For the next 4 weeks, this will be home. minus the TVs, phones, radios and computers.
My little Quran, that hopefully I'll get more time to actually read in Arabic and in English.
I'm really excited because I've been waiting for this opportunity for such a long time. Can't believe I'm here. It's just amazing.
For Khadija, the prospect of no longer having to conceal her Muslim faith is overwhelming. Formerly known as Claire, Khadija converted to Islam more than 10 years ago after a misspent youth and a battle with addiction.
Had I not found Islam, I would be in a morgue or in the ground somewhere. I got into drugs and bad company, and Allah saved me, and I feel like I've let him down. Allah Akbar. I was so enthusiastic to begin with. In the last few years, with one thing and another that's happened, my faith it's not as strong as it used to be. So no, that's a bad thing. I want to get it back up to how it should be and how it was.
Shortly after converting, Khadija met and married her Algerian husband, Rashid. Rejected by her parents, Khadija and her family were also the target of anti-Islamic abuse following 9/11.
Do you want to take a saddle for me, please? Walking on. At home, I try to be a perfect Muslim, but I feel that I can't outside. I try to keep my Islam and my outside life separate. Not many people know that I'm Muslim. The opportunity to be able to spend some time and to build my confidence, really, with other Muslims and other Muslim women particularly, it is going to be great.
Lunch is a first opportunity to meet the team Abdullah's gathered for this retreat. All are British Muslims who will mentor, teach and generally support the 6 guests during their stay.
So you have no contact today with your parents?
Last time I spoke to my parents was about 1.5 years ago.
Wow. What was that?
And they did give us a lot of hassle when I first got married. They thought that I was Muslim because of him. They couldn't accept the fact that I'm Muslim from me, and it really, really upset me a lot. So.
While the women immediately settle into sharing intimate personal histories, the men just want information.
Sorry, but you're going to have to forgive my ignorance. The difference between Sunnis and Shias is equivalent to Christians and...
No, probably more like
Protestant.
Slightly, ever so slightly. For Catholic and Protestant, maybe. Yeah, but that's not really a good example, but something like that, yeah.
Science graduate Simon Yarrow feels he needs data to help him on his spiritual search. He describes himself as a questioning agnostic who has good reason to question.
I had testicular cancer about 8 years ago. So every month I was literally looking down the barrel of the gun, not knowing whether or not I was going to live or to die. And so those questions automatically bring to the forefront of your mind whether or not there is anything afterwards.
Simon's search for meaning has already taken in the Christian Church's Alpha course, but it left him unconvinced.
I'd hope from this experience to get 2 things. Definitely a better understanding of Islam in terms of how it relates to the rest of the world and other world religions. The other thing is potentially a religion that I could follow.
Allahu Akbar.
Muslims believe that 1400 years ago, God, or Allah, spoke directly to the Prophet Muhammad. His message was recorded in the Quran, which represents the direct word of God, so cannot be questioned or altered in any way.
Han, are you okay for coming to the mosque? You don't have to pray, just come with us.
Yeah, I'll come.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're going to be doing it over the month. Yeah. You know, we're not going to force you to pray or anything.
Islamic practice is based on 5 obligations or duties known as the 5 pillars, which every Muslim must observe in order to live a good and responsible life. The first and most important pillar is to believe in one God only, and that the Prophet Muhammad was his last and final messenger. The second is to pray 5 times a day. For some of the new arrivals, the ritual of Islamic prayer is utterly alien. For others, reassuringly familiar.
ربنا ولك الحمد
Despite the many interpretations of Islamic practice across the globe, the 5 daily prayers are fundamental and non-negotiable. While praying alongside other women for the first time makes it a moving occasion for Khadija. Azim is less convinced. Despite being brought up in a devout Muslim home, Azim and religion have never quite seen eye to eye.
I lead a very non-Islamic life, I suppose. The people that I hung around with would do things that you're not supposed to be doing, you know, going to bars, going to clubs. I was the ultimate wide boy. I was a naughty boy, and I've done so many silly things that, you know, Muslims are, you know, I'm not proud of them.
Azim's bad boy behaviour and hedonistic Western lifestyle have been an ongoing source of disappointment to his parents. And splashing out on traditional clothes for the retreat may be more to do with wanting to look the part than a desire to reconnect with his Muslim roots.
My parents are very religious. They pray every single day, but I just don't. Everybody seems to find religion sooner or later. Maybe it's my time to try and find it. I'm not hoping to actually come back with a massive beard and a hat on and, like, you know, actually say kill all the infidels, you know. I'm hoping that I'm going to come back and actually just feel a lot more calmer and actually be reintroduced to it in such a way that I am actually going to find it pleasurable.
After prayers, Abdullah and Shanaz lead a guided tour of the Risala's grounds, which include orchards, stables, and a graveyard.
This person here is a young man, 14 years old. He died last year in a car crash, so he's the first inhabitant of this part of our community. When you're faced with your death, you do think about the miracle of actually existing. And so, you know, if you come away from this retreat with at least that consciousness, we'll have achieved something. And it's something that we need to be reminded of all the time.
For Aisha in particular, Abdullah's words need no explanation. Just 6 weeks before coming on the retreat, her own father passed away unexpectedly.
I think an opportunity to get away from family, friends, telephone, email, just to have actually a chance to kind of properly reflect on the past and actually look at, you know, the future, as I'm very much at a juncture in my life, quite an important juncture now.
Aisha is a trained barrister with a master's in Islamic law. She is a fervent Muslim. Even as a child, she contested the right to wear her hijab at school.
This would be an opportunity for me to share my faith with 5 other individuals and tell them how Islam encompasses our daily life, which I think is very much the beauty of Islam. To actually share that beauty with the people who I'm going to be spending this month with.
The ultimate aim of all Muslims is to be aware of Allah's presence at every moment and in every action. As well as the 5 daily prayers, many Muslims also perform dhikr, or remembrance of God. One form of dhikr practiced at Risalas involves men and women separately chanting the names of Allah or sections from the Quran as a way of focusing on the divine. Unfortunately, Muddassar's focus is elsewhere.
They were expecting me, I think, somebody tipped me off that on top of the minute you get some excellent mobile phone coverage. So I just used the opportunity to send a few texts. And yeah, it's nice. It's a good view from the top of the minaret. It's a really nice view. And yeah, I think I can see that becoming one of my regular haunts once I'm here, because of the mobile phone coverage.
It's probably fair to say that in his life outside, Muddassar doesn't have much time for spirituality. As well as running his own web design business, he's a community organiser and political lobbyist with aspirations of a media career.
Hi Kevin, it's Muddassar here.
Deep down I'm a cynic. I just don't believe in things. There's no such thing as peace and quiet.
I can't go for a walk by myself. I can't do things like that. I think that's because I'm always thinking of like 10 other things. So I'm talking, having the conversation like, expert again, And meantime I'm thinking, what am I going to do about that geezer who I was supposed to deliver a website to?
Some of Muddassar's nervous energy and will to succeed may stem from losing his father when he was just 14, leaving him as provider for the family.
This is my mother, a victim of my busy life, and yeah, she has a lot to say about that when I come back home. I'm very emotional about it.
I worry for him too much. He's using too much his brain. I pray for him. God give him long life.
I think I'd find the whole idea of focusing on spirituality odd. I have trained myself to believe these things are not that important. You can go through your life without really having to deal with these things. So, although the rational part of me is saying don't go, I think the emotion side of me is crying out for an opportunity like this.
An emotional rather than logical response is precisely what Abdullah was hoping for, and from Azim, it's exactly what he gets.
I've only been here 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours, whatever. And I do feel as if a drop of religion is actually touching the flower in my soul, and it is blossoming. And I'm not trying to be cheesy, but it's true.
Aisha, on the other hand, seems more concerned with questions of religious procedure.
Allah's names were being recited over and over again in a manner that I've never really been used to. It's something that I didn't particularly join in, simply because this isn't something I'm used to doing in congregation, and it doesn't really feel right or sit with me very well.
Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah.
Even before Fajr, the first prayer of the day, people gather in the mosque for half an hour's silent dhikr. Of the 6 volunteers, Simon, an agnostic, is the only one who makes it.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
By the time Fajr begins, Pom, Khadija and Aisha have also appeared.
سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر.
After Fajr, there is more silent dhikr where the different names of Allah are quietly recited hundreds of times to help focus on the glory of God and the wonder of His creation.
The period of silence doesn't really personally do anything for me. It's quite nice, it's quite quiet, I suppose it's a wee bit reflective. Realistically speaking, I was sitting there, and thinking this is pretty much the same as, 10, 20 other religions do.
Muddassar and Azim do finally drag themselves out of bed for breakfast.
A herb that's called open.
Abdullah wants his guests to break the patterns associated with life in the outside world. To get them into the rhythm of the retreat, he set a demanding timetable. As well as the prayers and dhikr, there will be daily religious instruction, periods of silent contemplation, and manual labour around the estate. This morning, while the women pick apples in the orchard, the men help clean the mosque.
Oh, my mother would be so proud.
To explore what's driving each volunteer's search for the divine, Abdullah seeks them out for one-to-one chats.
Is Muddassar here? Sorry? Muddassar?
Yeah, well, what?
Let's have a look here. Muddassar?
I like what I see, and I want to participate in it, but I think it's going to take me some time to get there. I have a block that I need to overcome.
Well, what is the block? What's the...
I'm a cynic. See, this is the difference. I pray because I have to pray. Do you understand? And if I don't, the cynical side of me, I'll burn in hell. Great. No. Yeah, pray. But obviously...
So it's like the better option, huh?
Yeah, no, but obviously zikr and this stuff, how is it going to benefit me? And,
you need to see the evidence, huh?
Yeah. What is the value of sitting in a mosque with a, you know, being silent for an hour?
We are never going to arrive at complete certainty of the existence of the divine by the means of logic and rationality.
Is that a belief of yours?
Strongly held.
Wow.
When it comes to the religious Muddassar, I think we have to kind of think about the possibility that maybe always demanding reasons is going to be ultimately detrimental. Will you entertain that possibility during this month?
Okay. Can you also show me where I can use the internet and what time I can use it?
Okay.
I'm not sure what to make of all this, to be honest with you. I really am not sure. I can't understand why somebody would sit silent for an hour. You know, time is so precious. Money, you know, time is money. How could you justify sitting for an hour in silence? Why would you do that?
Some confusion at this early stage is only to be expected. So to help the new arrivals understand and take part in the daily round of prayers, it's time to bring in the experts.
Water in Islam has a great symbolism.
Iqbal drives taxis in Birmingham. He's also been studying Islamic jurisprudence for 15 years. He'll teach the group about the religious ritual.
The physical action is happening, that you know the dirt is being washed off, but inwardly you're giving life to your spirit.
And the E sound is E. Your mouth's coming right back. So it's a'udhu, a'udhu billah.
Melissa, an expert in tajweed, the art of reciting the Quran in Arabic, will teach them key phrases used during the dhikr.
Most principal phrase for a Muslim is to say La ilaha illallah, which basically is to say that what your affirmation is for you to be Muslim is that you believe that there's only one God.
And then blow it out. No.
Take a couple of drops at the whole fountain.
Before each prayer, all Muslims must ritually cleanse themselves. So Iqbal starts by showing the group the correct way to make wudu.
No, just your hands. Okay. That's it. Now go back and bring them back. That's it.
La ilaha illallah. La ilaha.
La ilaha.
Illallah.
Illallah.
The other thing is that doing wudu, any sin, whatever you've done, the water washes it away.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Is that too much? I'll break it down more.
Break it, because I want to try and get it right as possible.
Okay.
The wudu lasts unless, it's broken. Unless it's broken.
Okay.
The only thing that breaks, main things that break it, it's something coming out of the orifices.
Yeah, orifices.
Yeah.
What about sweat?
Sweat doesn't break wudu.
Yeah, but sweat contains urea.
It does not break wudu.
Even though it contains urea, it doesn't break it.
It doesn't break wudu.
What about smoking?
Smoking does not break wudu.
Is it not?
No.
Presumably sex does.
Arousal does not break wudu. What will break wudu, if there's an emission.
With their wudu unbroken, the group head back to the mosque for the Zuhr prayer and another round of dhikr.
Allah, 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 Allah.
After lunch, everyone retires for a well-earned siesta. Well, nearly everyone.
I will email you contacts. You've got to speak to everybody. Is there going to be somebody who's going to be deliberate, kind of...
Learning to focus on what's going on inside rather than outside takes a little getting used to. so the topic of Abdullah's afternoon talk to the group could not be more appropriate.
Taking the theme of breaking patterns, which is in Arabic called khirq al-adat, which means breaking the habits. I want you to think about particular patterns that you have in your life. I'm not talking about good patterns or bad patterns, I'm just talking about patterns that you have in your life. Aisha.
I think my phone, my mobile phone, in some ways, is an intrusion on my life. And it is something that, if you're talking about pattern, it'll go off at the wrong time. People will complain that I don't answer it, that I'm never available. It rings too much.
There's a great new feature that you can silence the ringer. That's what I...
So there's a pattern, isn't it? Available, unavailable.
Yeah.
Available, unavailable.
Yeah.
Muddassar, please. Any patterns?
I have a pattern which I think I view every minute of my life through a prism of perceived benefit, cost-benefit analysis. So I feel guilty relaxing. Every minute of my life has to be spent doing something that's of perceived benefit to me. And that's a pattern that I'm actually happy with, but maybe it's helped increase the stress levels that I suffer from as well. And that stress kind of is taking a toll on my body in terms of all sorts of weird and wonderful things that my doctor keeps saying that's stress.
Well, listen, take the time that you're here to get out of that. Yeah, use the time that
Well, I have forced to, which is stressing me out.
To help break these patterns, early evenings on the retreat are set aside for personal reflection.
Azim coming? Azim? Oh, there he is, okay.
For some, it's clearly going to be a challenge, so to help the group get the hang of it, Abdullah offers to show them his favourite spots for quiet contemplation.
It really does
Muddassar, Muddassar, let's put the phone off now, come on. Let's engage with where we are now, come on. Muddassar.
Okay.
It's becoming rude.
Okay, I'll keep trying later on this evening. Okay, mate. Cheers. Bye.
Come on, it's becoming a bit rude now, come on. As you walk, be conscious. Think about the way that your muscles are moving, the very miracle of our existence.
While the others head off, Khadija decides to stay behind to reflect alone.
In life, one of our purposes is to find meaning in everything that we do. As we make the ascent, try to make it mean something. Try to make it symbolic in a sense of anything that's happening to you or you would like to happen, either in your life or while you're on the retreat here. I know it's a very simple thing to do, but what's happened is that we've lost that sort of language of the interior landscape. So let's see if we can regain meaning in the things that we do. Now, I'm going to be chanting Subhanallah, which is what the Prophet did. If you want to join me, you can.
Which means glory be
to God.
Allah.
Subhanallah, 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 Subhanallah.
Even in these testing circumstances, Aisha's keen to show she's sticking to the letter of Islamic law by not having physical contact with a man she could, technically, marry.
Well, what's it to do with? You're not allowed to touch me.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we'll just...
Because you're non-mahram.
Okay, we'll just go on to your shirt if you
Just
want.
hold on to my... Oh well, if God wants me to go down, that means my time's up, I suppose. That's one way to do it.
The Prophet Muhammad said that to know God, you must first know yourself. But Khadija is finding that personal reflection isn't as easy as it looks.
It's quite hard, actually, when you sit on your own and get to know yourself, when you're not surrounded by distractions. And I think that's, always stirs emotion with, because I try not to allow myself too much time to reflect on inner stuff. It takes a bit of getting used to.
This is called a mesa, a tabletop. If you posit yourself somewhere around the edge, and just like you to sit there, engage in meditation, reflection, or if you wanted to do La ilaha illallah or whatever you thought was appropriate, and look around. Try and be as quiet as you can and try to soak in the silence. Okay. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You know, here we are on this ball. And there's another ball hanging up there in the sky. That's where the earth ends, right there. And this is where the heavens start. We have a short space of time here, and then we go into the ground. Mm-hmm. People shed a tear, and they go off to Starbucks and have a coffee. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to make it as meaningful as you can. And it's moments like this that you have to use to become fluent in finding meaning and beauty and significance.
Can I throw a flip side to that?
Please.
Maybe there just isn't.
Well, what you got here?
Hmm?
Is what you got here not a beautiful thing?
It is, but whether it's got any meaning or anything like that, ultimately the universe is going to end up so far spread apart it becomes completely black, completely cold. You know, where's the meaning in that?
If it doesn't have meaning, to be honest, that's just as mysterious, and it doesn't have to be negative.
Should we do this? Should we both go ahead of her so she falls on us?
How come you've got grip?
I haven't got grip.
Look at myself.
Have you got grip?
No, I haven't, but I'm all right. Yeah.
Once again, despite the risk to her own personal safety, Aisha is determined to stick to her religious principles.
Because this is a particular situation where I think it might be permissible for you to lurch out and grab in case you fell. Do you think so?
Well, it could be. I just rather not, if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
Well, that's noble, but, you know, we don't want to get happening to you, you know what I mean? Hey, Abdullah, did you hear about the Saudi girls' school?
The King Fahd, or...?
No, the one that got burnt down because men couldn't go in there to put the fire out. Did you hear about that?
No. Are you kidding? I thought it was a joke.
No, it was true. It's true.
The group arrives back in time for Maghrib, the sunset prayer. Then, after dinner, the men and women part company for a specific dhikr known as the wadifa. While Azim and Simon join the men in the mosque, Muddassar heads back up to his new office at the top of the minaret.
Salam, how you doing, Rosa? You alright? Hey, you guys should come out here. Seriously, it's a cool place. I mean, if you want to get away from it all. It's not the sort of thing I'd do, but, you know, you might be into it.
Meanwhile, the women's wadifa is in full swing. Literally, the chant means, he is he. It's the culmination of the wadifa and intended as a gateway to the divine. The ecstatic state achieved by Shanaz is known as hal. It is something neither Aisha, Khadija nor Pom have encountered before.
I should just explain maybe the hal. When you invoke Allah by His names, by His name Allah, His greatest name, when we remember Him, the heart becomes moved. And the heart can't contain Allah. And its inability to contain Allah results in a physical movement which manifests on the outward limbs. That's what hal is. And they say that it's a rising of the soul when it's desire to connect to the source. And the sadness it feels to have to return.
So when you were in that state, did you feel that maybe your soul possibly even left you?
No, not at all.
Oh, right, okay.
Hal means to be present, to be truly present. The only thing that really is present is Allah. So when you're in a state of hal, you're present to the only thing that really exists, which is God. So I'm very much, one in a state of hal is very much present. More so probably than at other time.
Back in the privacy of their rooms, the women share their true feelings about what they've just witnessed.
I think we feel that that sort of, invocation of Allah and the reaction to it is something that should be done in private and not in a congregational situation.
My question would be, did the Prophet, peace be upon him, do this? Was this something that he did? Or all the women, the companions of the Prophet, the Prophet's wives, was this something that they did?
I'm very sure that when I get home and I explain to Rashid that this is what we've been doing, he'll be standing and shaking his head and saying, you know, I'm not sure about this.
Without you two questioning this, I would just assume it's all kosher, although it's obviously completely inappropriate term. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm so glad we had this came up, because I've been completely ignorant. I just am going along to everything very
Abdullah, Shanaz and the other Muslims on the retreat are all Sufis, whose focus on the mystical relationship with God is viewed with suspicion by some. Abdullah believes their practices fall clearly under the umbrella of classical Islam, but some of the group question whether what's on offer at the retreat is bid'ah, a deviation from the Quran. To nip any anxieties in the bud, Abdullah calls a meeting to address their concerns head on.
I understand that there's some doubts amongst some of you about the things that we're doing here. So I think it's very important that we get it out on the table and we discuss it. Does anyone want to start?
I think I have a question, because I noticed Pom sitting in the gathering, and she's somebody who's obviously non-Muslim and who doesn't have any preconceived ideas as such. But the reaction that it sort of seemed to have invoked in her was she was tapping her feet. And I was thinking, well, you know, if this is a form of worship, and there was actually clapping of the hands going on, and again, clapping of the hands to me is more associated with celebration, like maybe Eid or a wedding, or, you know, that's all your sort of an enjoyment, really.
From the outside, I don't see that there's a problem with it, with worshipping God as being something that shouldn't be
enjoyed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't enjoy worshipping Allah, but
I would hope so, actually.
Yeah, but I'm questioning the reaction.
All I'm saying is that there may be different ways of expressing the worship of God.
Allah has prescribed for us to live as closely the life of our Prophet as we possibly can. And is it something that the Prophet Muhammad would actually have done?
Exactly.
In congregation?
But to me, you see, Khadija, I couldn't care less.
Right, okay.
And I'm going to go a little bit further here. I'm going to stick my neck out. I'm sitting for 3 hours in the morning, about a total of 2.5 hours in the evening. And I'm chanting the name of God over and over. I'm saying, La ilaha illallah, I'm reading some Quran, I'm doing this. Is that bad?
The Prophet, he was who we should emulate. We follow him in the way he walked, the way he spoke, the way he conducted himself. So in each and every manner he came to perfect Islam. So surely he would have taught us the best manner to worship Allah more than any other human being that ever came.
Listen, somebody's reciting the Quran a lot. Somebody's chanting the name of God a lot. Is that a bad thing? Whether the Prophet did it or the Prophet didn't do it.
Yeah, it could be, because we have to draw a line somewhere, because then we could go in time in the future, in another 400 years, in another 500 years, where are we going to be? Maybe we may have moved so away from how...
Aisha, I think what we have to do is we each have to draw the line ourselves.
Yeah, aside from the basic principles within Islam, which defines you as a Muslim, which are the 5 pillars, which is something you must do, that's fine. But aside from that, why must anybody define how I worship the Almighty? That's my connection with Him.
And at the end of the day, it's your free will to do what you think and what you see inside is best for you, in terms of your praise of God. And it's not for you to judge or anybody else to judge. The only person who's going to judge at the end of the day is God or Allah or whoever. And, you know, if you've done the right things in terms of what you think is correct, then, you know, God will judge you accordingly.
The debate rumbles on for almost 2 hours, but for Azim at least, the answer is simple.
All religion is good because all of it teaches goodness, doesn't it? So all of it was made clear. It doesn't matter if there's different ways of actually teaching Islam or there's different ways of teaching religion. It's all good. So that's what was made clear.
To Abdullah, Aisha's rigid approach is disappointing, but not a surprise.
Aisha is indicative of a particular type of Islam which is prevalent in the world today and which is at some odds with the classical traditional position. In my view, it's a superficial, prescriptive, dry, formulaic interpretation of Islam. I guess there is no avoiding this particular question. And this, if you like, this is a microcosm of what's going on in the Muslim world. And in a sense, it's also a microcosm of what's going on within the religious and sacred world altogether. It's the secularization or the rationalization of the spiritual and the religious. And that's really the battle that's being fought here.
For Aisha, it's a fight she's not about to back down from.
Despite trying to be as open-minded as possible, I think I'm finding quite a few of the concepts and the beliefs difficult and uncomfortable because they don't fit with, and I wouldn't say my understanding of Islam, but very much an understanding of Islam that goes across the rest of the Muslim world.
The next day, on the surface at least, it's back to the routine of the retreat, with Aisha, Khadija and Azim doing spiritually uplifting work out in the fields, Simon sanding doors in the mosque, and Muddassar checking his emails on the office computer. Pom, meanwhile, is having her first session with Abdullah. Although she has studied analytic psychology and religion to master's level, her late-night discussions with Aisha have left her confused about Islam.
The first kind of proper conversation we had about all of this was me wanting to know, can you not deviate in any way? Can there not be any room for any personal... expression, exactly.
Well, the
and
answer is
been,
yes.
Well, the answer I've been given is no. And I found that makes me feel actually kind of claustrophobic. Like,
yeah. Let me qualify that for you. There is the chance for individual expression. And that's really what it's about. It's about you fulfilling your potential. The Prophet said, I came for nothing except refinement of character. That is, if you like, developing the full potential of the human being.
Yeah.
And that's classical Islam. And I think that, forgive me for saying this, I think that Aisha's view of Islam is a series of rules and regulations. You follow the rules, you're going to get rewarded.
Yeah, which is another thing that we were debating about last.
That is not our understanding. Yeah? We're not asking...
It's very prescriptive.
It's very prescriptive. And in some ways that's understandable because some religions, and Islam is now becoming, unfortunately, part and parcel of that. We're getting a standardized, technologized, rational and empirical product here.
Which sometimes might seem to be quite controlling.
Not seen. It is. It is. And I will lay my life down for this. That is not the purpose of religion.
While others have been distracted by debates about religious practice, Azim has remained focused on the spiritual. Azim arrived at the retreat as a non-practicing Muslim with a deep distrust of religion. After less than a week, things are starting to change.
What I've found is whether you believe or not, you've at least got to have that mind to think, look at the hills and look at the sky and look at the beauty around you, and it's all space, as Abdullah says. Everything's living, and you've got to be really aware and all the rest of it. And today I kind of, for a moment, was aware. Just a little moment. Really have to focus when you're praying. It's like going into a cave and actually losing yourself in the darkness, pleasant darkness, where it's just you and God. That's if he's home.
The next day, during Melissa's class on pronunciation, Azim is so touched by the beauty of her reading of the Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran, he asks her to record it onto his mobile.
Can't ignore it, can I? Can't ignore what she's just done to my heart, the way she stroked it. And all of a sudden, in what, 48 seconds? Literally. She just flipped the script, man. She just made me see Islam in a different light altogether. When I was listening back to it, I got this funny feeling in my throat. I can't really explain that feeling. I've never got that feeling from Islam, something that I was born as.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you.
If she said that if I listen to that every single day, maybe it'll keep me away from all the crap that I have to deal with. Every time something goes wrong, I'm going to play that. And it's going to give me a bit of peace, I think.
The gentle, non-judgmental atmosphere of the retreat is awakening Azim's sense of the spiritual. But not everyone feels moved in the same way.
I'm not feeling anything emotional. It just doesn't... And I can't explain to you why that is. I feel I'm open to it, or open to sort of spiritual possibilities. I can certainly rationalise spiritual possibilities, and I can see it in other people, but just doesn't seem to happen to me.
Despite attending every prayer and dhikr session and reading the Quran extensively, Simon has struggled to engage on anything but an intellectual level. Aisha is also failing to engage emotionally. Instead, she continues to focus on the conviction that what the retreat is actually teaching is Sufi religious practice.
I think you do have to acknowledge that in terms of the Islam that you're promoting is a particular kind of Islam. Would you say that's fair?
Yes.
So it is a particular Islam that...
I'm happy to be put under the banner of classical Islam. We're here representing a methodology of spirituality within the Islamic tradition.
But you wouldn't be happy to be put under the banner if this is a Sufi Islam?
Aisha's preoccupation with labels prompts Iqbal to explain once again his understanding of classical Islam and its focus on the heart rather than the head.
The 5 pillars of Islam, the only thing that was for 13 years was the first one, the oneness of Allah, and through that purifying yourself. This is classical Islam. This is what Islam needs to be reclaimed, and that is what the Prophet Muhammad came with, and that was his message. The spirit is your relationship with your Maker.
Which is the first pillar of Islam, Shahada.
Yeah, and you keep repeating it until you realise, you have realisation.
That's the most profound thing I've heard since I've been here.
Right? Yeah, no, this is the way of the Prophet. And this is what Muslims have been denied. It's literally, our spirit has been, wrenched out from our bodies. And People have a problem with the word Sufi because they are the only ones who continue with that path.
Everybody's been wanting me to feel something emotional all week, and I keep saying to everybody nothing's had any effect, but there was just a very important thing which really touched me, that Sidi Iqbal just said. Muhammad, as a prophet, was really just concerned about his intent. It was his heart that he wanted to make sure that was right, and his heart with respect to God and his heart with respect to other people. That's the central truth of all the religions, and that's how I try and live. You know, and I didn't really need to come here to realise that. You know, that's... Okay, maybe I did, I'm sorry. Fuck me, that was close.
Simon decides to keep trying.
Simon here on his mobile, which is great, but I don't want his mobile, really. I want Muddassar's mobile.
Almost 10 days into the retreat, Muddassar is still failing to link his continued dependence on the outside world with his lack of spiritual progress.
Okay, but just make sure you ring him, okay? I'll speak to you later.
Muddassar, have you got a moment?
Yeah, sure.
That's good. What's that?
For Abdullah, the time has come to intervene.
Well, we're going to be talking about this. Yeah, the whole purpose of Islam, the whole purpose of the Muslims, is Allah and nothing else, isn't it? So I really now want us to come to a time where we're going to say to you, no more mobiles. I know it's a bit frightening, but Muddassar, you need to take stock. You need to gather your energies. Yeah.
You see, everything I am now, or have got to, you know, everything I've achieved so far, which is not much, very little, but whatever it is due to me being accessible, is due to me being in touch and being proactive.
You know, you're very accessible, but are you accessible to Allah?
It's as if what you're saying is A, the proactiveness, B, the accessibility, and C, the kind of... I have to sort of suppress my drive.
No, I want you to drive the other way.
What do you mean?
Your drive is out. I want you to drive in. Because if you use the same amount of energy that you got for the hour to drive in, you're going to go very deep. And I think for you it would be a real challenge, and it could be the beginning of a lot more.
Okay.
Have I offended you?
No, you haven't offended me.
Have I touched you?
You've touched me, yeah.
I'm serious.
I need to change to become more in tune with my thoughts, and that I shouldn't be afraid of relinquishing modern day tools like the mobile phone. And I shouldn't be afraid of my own thoughts. And I think the question is, am I afraid of my own thoughts?
To support the growing sense of spirituality, Abdullah has organised a Layla, or gathering. That evening, the retreat plays host to a group of visiting Moroccans. Abdullah first became a Muslim over 30 years ago while travelling in Morocco, and he's keen for the group to be given a taste of the qualities that so impressed him.
For me, they represent the sort of thing which I aspire to. Genius, and it's creative, and it's inspiring. It's not prescriptive, it's just something that's within them. And it flows, and it's an integral part of their lives.
As a sign of respect to their hosts, the first duty of the visitors is to honour the dead. Aisha disapproves of chanting at graves, because there's no evidence that the Prophet Muhammad did it. For Khadija, though, the occasion has a previously undisclosed significance.
I don't do this whole grave thing. I know this is coming to me quicker probably than it would do to somebody else. Yeah, I mean, I've got multiple sclerosis, so although I'm fine on the whole, there's been periods where I've spent months in a wheelchair thinking that it's, I'm on my way, and I've become a lot better because it's relapsing and remitting. So I'm not always. It's not progressive. So it doesn't mean that once I start going downhill, that's the end. This is one of my main motivations actually for coming here, because I wanted to get my whole spiritual being sorted out before it was too late. I always feel a bit blessed because I am still quite mobile and coherent, that it's got to come at some point, and I've just got this feeling that it's going to come on all of a sudden.
The scene at the grave, Khadija's revelation, and the energy and passion of the gathering are an emotional culmination to the first 10 days of the retreat. For Pom, it's a timely reminder of exactly why she's here.
I suddenly felt this kind of, like a dam kind of breaking today, and there's last week been kind of lots of bravado and lots of humour and stuff between us all, but I don't know, I'm kind of aware that actually what I've been doing the last week is what I've been doing for the last kind of 20 years, just kind of knowing there's something there and coming across various opportunities to kind of do something about it, but then getting swept away. And at home it's more kind of hedonistic lifestyle in a way, but here that on a different scale but kind of similar, just not really allowing any time to reflect at all, or actually to look into what I'm kind of wanting to look into in a way.
With 2/3 of the retreat still to go, the intensity of the routine is beginning to have an effect. The question is, will it last?
Martha was special.
If you don't undergo the program of the retreat, then you need to ask yourself why you're here.
She's very, very strict in her Islamic ways, and she's the type of woman that I'm kind of aiming for now. I want that it's a bit more religious, a bit more Islamic, because I am a Muslim.
I'm not believing in Allah. I'm asking to believe that you have a spirit and a heart and a soul, and these are the things that you've got to be feeding. If that brings you to Allah, alhamdulillah.
BBC Two returns to the retreat next Monday at 9. Comedy next tonight with A Far From Ideal Life for Johnny Vegas.